The law of the church requires that we don't baptize anyone against his or her will. And that makes sense. You cannot force baptism on a person. You cannot force someone to become a Christian. You cannot force someone to accept the responsibilities of the Christian life, a new way of living. It's something that has to happen in the heart. It's something that has to change the human heart and be accepted. But already in the early centuries of Christianity, probably within the first decades, Christian men and women, or rather non-Christian men and women, were hearing the gospel, were finding this new hope, this new life, something that they wanted to live, that there's no way we can continue living our old way of life. There's no way we can continue living this life according to the world, according to the age, according to stuff that falls apart and dissolves. We have to live in a new way. And they heard the gospel, were converted, went to the apostles or their disciples, and were baptized. And they became Christian. And they began living a new way of life. Well, when they start raising their own families, it doesn't make sense for mom and dad to be Christian and raising our children with no faith. That we'll just let them be and hopefully they find their way on their own one day. A divided house. No, these parents in early Christianity recognized that the way they were living their life, we don't want our children to miss out on this for many, 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 many years. That we don't want them to go astray, to live in the dark for so long, and then maybe one day have that conversion experience. We want to already share the gift that we have received. And we do that in every other way of our life. We teach our children already from little on how to do everything else. We teach them how to read. We don't say, well, maybe one day they'll put these letters together on their own and figure out they mean something. We teach them not to play in the street. We teach them not to touch the hot stove. We teach them all kinds of things so that they already begin learning good habits, not only for safety, but also for their advancement. And so, of course, Christian parents want to teach their children how to know God, how to be a person of faith from little on, so it becomes part of who this is. And indeed, when moms and dads bring their children to the church today to be baptized, a great responsibility is set upon them. Over and over again in the ritual, the minister will ask them, do you understand the responsibility you are undertaking? Do you understand what you are doing, what you're asking for? Because I cannot baptize this child against his or her will. And obviously, he or she is too young to make that choice on its own. So it's up to you. You, mom and dad, are promising that you are going to raise this child in the practice of the faith. You are promising that you are going to teach this child who God is, how to know God, how to love God, and how to serve God, so that when he or she does reach the age of reason, he or she would have wanted to have been baptized. In other words, we trust you to put all of the tools in this child's life so that that child will have chosen Christianity, and it will not be a forced baptism in infancy. And it all relies on the parents, because there is not a Catholic school or a religious ed program or any homeschooling that you find online or in books that's going to teach Christianity. If it is not taught by mom and dad, if the faith does not come from the parents, it will be found nowhere else. It absolutely has to be mom and dad. It absolutely has to be a family that passes this on. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. It's not something we find on our own, unless, of course, we encounter it along the way, maybe by accident, maybe by providence, maybe by someone else coming into our life and revealing this to us. But like anything, any virtue, any good habit, character begins at home. And we learn from our parents. And we learn who we are in our family settings. And we learn who God is in our family settings. If we have an abusive situation at home, if we have a damaging relationship at home, if we are in a situation of tension and struggle, that begins to shape our own mind of who God is. Because if that is what a father is, or if that is what a parent is, or if that is what my relationship is, then that's how I begin to know God. That's how I begin to know my spiritual life. And that will either draw me into it or away from it. That we have great responsibility as parents to pass on the practice of the faith. And all of you kids out there, and all of you who are away at college, and all of you who go off on your lives, I can tell you the greatest worry your moms and dads have, that they will talk to me about in the confessional, is I worry about my son or daughter. That they have left the practice of the faith. That they don't go to church anymore. That they don't practice what we raised them with. And that is a great anchor, a great burden on mom and dad's neck. Because they have given such a great gift. And I know there is this myth that says, well, aren't we supposed to walk away from our faith for a while? Aren't we supposed to go off on our own and live our life, and everybody loses their faith in college and doesn't practice for a while and so on and so forth? No. That's a temptation. That's a lie. That's a rationalization. We don't have to do that. We can choose to do what is right. We can choose to receive what was given to us and pass it on and live it and be changed by it, or we choose not to. It's not just, well, everyone goes through this phase. No, you're making a choice. Every one of us in this church make the choice, either to be God's child or not. We choose either to live or to die. We choose that. And it's not just a phase that we go through. It's not just a transitionary thing. We choose it. And we pass it on. Jesus came into this world in a family. And we see him today. And we see him, and the scripture says specifically, he became obedient to his mom and dad. He was God. He created them. And yet he becomes obedient to them. Because that's what a child does to its parents. And if Jesus humbled himself to be a child, he would humble himself to listen to the human wisdom that was passed on. When we are younger, we think we know it all. We think we know better than mom and dad. We think we're invincible and are going to live forever. And as we get older, we realize that's not going to happen. And one day I'm going to die, and one day life isn't going to be perfect, and one day I'm going to run into my limitations. And those are very tough realities to grasp. But as we celebrate and practice our faith, and as we find that support in community, we also recognize that we have the support of a much bigger family. That Christ established his church to be his family on earth, to help us along the way. So that no matter where we go, no matter where we are, no matter how old or young we are, we will always find our church. We will always find our faith. We will always have access to it. And we can always choose it. Because the responsibility starts in our parents' hands at baptism. But then it becomes our responsibility along the way. And every one of us continue to choose that or not to choose it. Faith is not an accident. It happens by choice. I either open my heart or I close my heart by choice. Jesus became obedient to Mary and Joseph. And obedience, at the heart of obedience, is the word to listen. That's what obedience means in Latin, to listen. That when I listen and I hear what is right and good, I have to give myself to it. So the celebration of the Holy Family tonight is a celebration of passing something on, of receiving and giving. that we stand as links in a chain, as a family is united, as a community is united, as we are united. We are links in a chain. And it does really depend on me. And it does depend on you. If you break that link, you are not the only one who will suffer. There will be many more that are hooked onto you that will suffer as well. We bear a great responsibility. Do you understand the responsibility that you have undertaken? Because it is a life or death question. And if we choose yes, if we choose life, then we rejoice tonight. And we rejoice every night that this responsibility then does not become a burden, but it becomes a joy. And that's why we pass it on to one another. Because this is not something that makes our lives worse. It makes our lives better. So moms, dads, children of all ages, we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family tonight. Because Jesus privileged the family as the place where faith begins and ends. And everything about it comes from there. So blessings upon your families, especially as we come into this new year, that they will be cradles for faith, and that they will fan it into flame all the time, no matter how old or young you may be.